Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Dr. Dori Naerbo, and I'm your host on today's call. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a clinical researcher and an author of several books. Welcome everyone to our product Q&A call with Clayton Thomas, who is the chairman and co-founder of Root. Hello, Clayton, and welcome to the call.
Dr. Narbo, thanks for having me. Happy Tuesday. Happy summertime.
Happy Tuesday. And today I thought we would talk about aluminum, which is a known neurotoxin and carcinogenic. So you think about that while I give everyone a recap of last week's call. I'm sure that you will have plenty to say on this subject. So last week we discussed arsenic. From the time of the Roman Empire all the way to the Victorian era, arsenic was considered the king of poisons as well as the poison of kings. So history is riddled with accounts of both royalty, commoners carrying out assassinations for personal gain using this odorless, tasteless, in other words, perfect poison compound called arsenic. It is a natural environmental contaminant to which humans are routinely exposed in food, water, air, and soil. And in the past 100 years, it's been used as a pesticide, a chemotherapeutic agent, and a constituent of many consumer products. And one study published in the Nutritional Journal suggested that there are certain types of foods, including, well, if you consider white wine a food and beer, of course, beer we do consider that a food, and Brussels sprouts are also linked to higher levels of arsenic in humans. So let's move on and talk about aluminum. This is a really interesting metal. So aluminum is the third most common element in the Earth's crust. It is naturally present in the environment. Aluminum is a neurotoxic metal, and there's numerous pathways of exposures that does not have any function in the human body whatsoever. So aluminum has absolutely no function in the body. The toxicity of
Uh-huh.
toxicity of aluminum depends on the exposure route and the solubility of aluminum compounds. And like heavy metals, like we've stated before, aluminum also is a type of metal that will bioaccumulate in the body, in the tissues such as your brain, bones, kidney, and the liver. And the accumulation of aluminum in the brain will lead to diseases such as impairment of memory, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, ALS. This one I didn't know about this, but autism spectrum disorder is another one. In addition to adverse health effects on the central and or peripheral nervous system, aluminum exposure has a very strong correlation with the carcinogenesis in breast tissue. And in other areas of the body, they analyzed samples of bladder carcinomas and displayed statistically higher levels of aluminum among other metals. So together, aluminum actually acts as a supportive role in malignant growth in the bladder. Diet is the main exposure route for aluminum. It's found in your drink, in food, in drinking water, processed foods. It's used as an additive in many packaged foods, which, well, okay, I didn't know about that either, which I found was really surprising. Everybody, all I can say is you better start reading the labels because it's in cake mixes, it's in all kinds of different things. It's really amazing. And it's really important because, like I said, it bioaccumulates in the body. So we don't want this in our bodies. So it's even in fresh foods, vegetables and fruit, because the aluminum is contained in the soil. And so acidic soil contains a lot of aluminum. And interesting enough, vegetable, fruit, and seafood groups are higher than any other group. So that's something to think about. So aluminum gets in the body through the stomach and skin, and it enters the bloodstream, where it is usually removed by the kidneys fairly quickly. However, those with poor kidney function, those that are on dialysis, for example, they have a greater risk for toxicity, along with infants under 1 year of age, and of course the elderly. So aluminum can be found in many of your favorite food items, such as frozen pizza, waffles, pancakes, baking powder, cheese, ready-made mixes, baby formula, anti-caking powders, which is in a lot of different supplements, for the anti-caking material, and also color additives. So you can find sodium aluminum silicate in dried powdered milk substitutes, sugar products, dried whole eggs and dried egg yolks, grated cheeses, and flours. So, you need to look at the labels. I mean, really pay attention to the labels, because as I said, it's in baking powders, cake mixes, instant soup powder mixes that you find like in chocolate beverages, like that you find in vending machines. And of course, almost a century later, many vaccines still contain aluminum salts such as aluminum hydroxide, aluminum phosphate, potassium aluminum sulfate, and they use this as adjuvants to strengthen and lengthen the body's immune response to the vaccines. And some studies suggest that babies are born with aluminum that are already present in the body, which of course come from the mother's blood, as we've discussed earlier on other calls when we talk about heavy metals and how in the cord blood there's a lot of heavy metals in the cord blood that's passed on from the mothers. So packaging and cookware. This is really big because aluminum is abundant and it's cheap, and it's used for manufacturing of food packaging as well as pots and pans. We've talked about this before on another call where, if the coating on the aluminum pan is cracked, you just throw it away because it's going to leach out the aluminum through the cracks. So you should avoid aluminum packaging like cans whenever possible. The metals also present in baking trays, other cooking utensils, cooking foil, and of course those take away for, when you go and eat and take food away. There's aluminum as well. Cosmetics is another ranging from concealers, foundations, facial moisturizers, sunscreens, lipstick, balms, deodorants, acne treatments. Well, I didn't know this, but nail polish has a lot of aluminum. And so this is also absorbed in your skin. And aluminum is actually used in cosmetics as a color to help your makeup stay on longer and to keep your skin from sweating. So the powder in the cosmetic has actually been linked to neurotoxicity, certain types of cancers, respiratory toxicity, immune toxicity, asthma, bronchitis, lung cancer, pulmonary fibrosis, and dementia. So, as you begin to replace your old cosmetics, you should do a little research to find like the most natural, the least toxic product. I mean, the best thing is, I've actually noticed since I've been using the clean slate that yeah, I'm using less and less makeup because my skin looks really great. So, oh, another thing too, antacids. These are really bad because they contain a lot of aluminum. And of course, we all know about deodorants. So your antacids and deodorants are loaded with aluminum. Also, for those that like to drink tea, tea leaves have also been reported to have higher aluminum levels because the tea plants are actually grown in acidic soil. So it's also, it's found in tea. So as I said earlier, aluminum in the human body has been demonstrated to bioaccumulate in soft tissues and skeletal tissues. And, these are target areas for removal of aluminum. And there are numerous side effects to current chelators. And that's why Clean Slate works brilliantly to rid the body of these toxic metals without the terrible side effects. So that's my take on aluminum today. So today we're going to introduce you, for the new people, introduce you to two innovative products, Clean Slate and Zero In. And as I've stated before, Clean Slate is one of the most important foundational supplements. And basically, as the name implies, clean slate, by removing the toxins, you get to reboot your entire system and start new. And this is a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Right, Clayton? I mean, it's something that, a lot of people want the quick fix, but that's, you have to remember, how long did it take you to get to this point, where you are. So your body's an amazing healing machine. It just needs the right tools to do what it needs to do. So Clayton, the floor is yours. I thought you'd just go ahead and jump right in. We have 45 minutes, and I know that there's going to be some questions.
You hit on some of the fun components, regarding aluminum, and one of the two main areas you hit on are the carcinogen aspects. Let me see if I can pronounce it properly as I talk. Carcinogenicity,
Mm-hmm.
and the neurotoxicity, right? And one primary area when you talk about the risk of aluminum in breast cancer in women, the primary exposure to that over the last, we'll give it 30, 40 years, has been antiperspirants. And because the primary chemical, and it just sickens me today that they're still sold and people still buy them. And because, if you're buying an antiperspirant, any of them, the ingredient that is used to block perspiration, and you have to understand, perspiration is sweat. It's a primary detox pathway. Do you know how you inhibit perspiration by using an antiperspirant? You block your pores from sweating. And they do that with aluminum. So, it's getting into your pores. And let's look at the lymphatic system with for women, with right around here and what's here, right? Not too far. So you have to look and draw the correlation of exposure, where exposures happen, because what did Dori just go over? That one of the primary means of exposure to aluminum is through your skin. So if you're using an antiperspirant, you're giving yourself a tremendous opportunity to have, lymphoma, breast cancer, other cancers. So kudos for you if you want to continue to do it. So choose properly, right? Sweating is not a problem. Stinking is a problem. But if you clean up your system, if you remove a lot of the heavy metals and a lot of the toxins that are in your system, you won't stink, because you stink when you sweat because you're a cesspool. Food for thought. The big part for me, like you hit, I want to hit on the neurotoxicity aspect really quickly, because it's been a primary focus of mine for about the last, give it 8 to 10 years. And because aluminum and mercury are really bad. Aluminum and mercury in combination are horrible, right? Mercury is the worst neurotoxin known to man. Aluminum's not far behind it, but when you put them in conjunction together, they're horrific. And the worst part is you're conceived with mercury because mom put it in you, and then your exposure doesn't change. And now you're getting aluminum and mercury injected into you as a kid, if you're in the vaccine system. But like Dori mentioned, the issues that you see from these, unlike arsenic, right? A lot of times arsenic exposure, if you're exposed to enough of it, you'll experience really quickly. But aluminum builds up in your system, and aluminum toxicity as well as mercury toxicity are the two known primary causes of most central nervous system disorders. So if you look at Alzheimer's and dementia, you look at Parkinson's, you look at ALS, and then you add in CTE, which has been an area that is really, really important for me, because of having friends who've played professional sports, having kids who play sports, and understanding the conversations around CTE. And
why don't you say what that is for those that don't know what it means?
You just jumped ahead of me, because
I'm sorry.
You're so smart that you think faster than I do.
That I took a pill today.
So did you take 2?
No, I did take 2 today. Yes, I did.
So here's the here's the question though, since you've done some research on this, how many types of CTE are there?
You're asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
I have no idea.
Because most people, when they think of CTE, they think of chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Yes, that's what I think of.
Because that is what is becoming prominent with the concussion conversation of concussive sports and head trauma. But did you know that prior to the last 8 to 10 years of research, there is the original form of CTE, which is where Alzheimer's, dementia, and everything else stem from. It's called chronic toxic encephalopathy. And what science has proven with this is chronic toxic encephalopathy is caused by mercury and aluminum in the brain, because they're both neurotoxins, and that's one of the primary areas where they love to go sequester and store themselves, is that typically over time, over decades of life, these metals will start to congregate in different areas, and they disrupt our neurological system, right? They'll disrupt motor neurons and such. And in so doing, they create plaque, this amyloid plaque, which then slows down neurological functions, and that plaque builds up as those metals get into specific areas, whatever part of the brain that they'll congregate in. They cause that plaque. That chronic toxic encephalopathy is how dementia, Alzheimer's, and such are sourced. That's the cause. The diagnosis could be dementia, could be Alzheimer's, could show up as Parkinson's, but it's all chronic toxic encephalopathy. So chronic traumatic encephalopathy comes from this issue. But here's the interesting aspect, and like we talk about how unique the body is electrically and energetically. We're neurotoxic from conception. As we've gone over, we make it really clear that mercury and aluminum are in our environment. They're in our body. What's in mom goes into us. And then in your baby formula, in breast milk, in everything else that we're exposed to. And you have to remember the knowledge that we have today, the experience that we have today of thinking about what's in our food, what's in our water, what's in our air, what's in our soil. We've become more cognizant of, because we know that these things cause cancer. They cause, neurological conditions, physical conditions, psychological conditions, emotional conditions. We know that these are toxic, but 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, when you were born, none of this was a concern, right? You had moms smoking cigarettes continually while babies were in the womb. You had sales reps for glyphosate and Roundup going to the farm, talking to farmers about how safe glyphosate was and drinking it. All of those guys are dead. That you have to look back at what your total exposure was over your life, because the issues, the lifestyle that you have today is an amalgamation and a compilation of everything that you've been exposed to. And that stuff is not stuff that you can get out quickly. And if you try to, it can really hurt you. So it has to be done slow. But getting to the CTE issue of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, we know the original form of CTE is mercury and aluminum. So what happens when you have a concussive episode? It actually doesn't bruise the brain, right? Because our brain is in fluid. It has a natural shock absorber, because if it didn't, and you got rocked, either, just shaken up, or if you're on a roller coaster, or if you get hit in the head from playing sports, or if you're in a car accident, if we don't have that fluid on the brain to act as that shock absorber, you have a massive impact to your brain. You're just dead, or you have massive brain damage. So we have some of the protections there. But what happens is, with a concussion, the area that's influenced has a massive amount of ionic activity and electrical activity that happens in that area, because it's been disrupted, it's been injured. But what happens with that, the same thing that happens in other joints, is the metals that are in your brain, the mercury, the aluminum, some of the other neurotoxins are drawn to that area, much like a rare earth magnet will attract other metals out of the soil. If you have it around the soil, or if you're playing with wood, with metal shavings or whatever, with a rare earth magnet, it just binds to those. So in this instance, the metals will congregate to that area, which by doing so speeds up and accelerates the production of tau, of that amyloid plaque. So it happens much earlier on in life. So you have, the mental issues, the lack of cognition, memory issues, anger, all of the stuff that you see from chronic traumatic encephalopathy is caused by chronic toxic encephalopathy being accelerated, right? Because this just in, mercury, aluminum, and other heavy metals are bad. And if you accelerate what they do, they're worse. So that's one of the key components to take out of this. If you want to make sure that your memory is phenomenal for your entire life, and that your vision is amazing, and that your hearing is amazing, and if you're a guy, if you don't want to make sure that you're popping blue pills, so you can have entertainment, you have to make sure you clean yourself up, right? You got to remove this stuff, but it's not something that can be done quickly. And that's why Clean Slate is so valuable, so important, and so unique, is it's using nature's most effective detoxifying crystal, a volcanic crystal created from volcanic eruptions that creates this very special negatively charged honeycomb cage that traps and grabs onto and binds all the bad stuff. The mercury, the aluminum, cadmium, arsenic, lead, cesium, strontium, viral particles, slowing down the viral replication process. And there's probably one or two people now that are worried about viruses. They're not so bad if your immune system works. Bacterial, biotoxins, mold spores, all the bad stuff that's here that causes all of our problems. Nature has the solution. What's most important is figuring out how to use it. We've been really fortunate because of, our team and our histories and backgrounds, that we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and have been around biotech and have been around the wellness and nutrition industry, that we've created a process that takes this natural occurring crystal, breaks it down into fragments that are small enough to circulate throughout your entire body. Go in, grab onto all the bad stuff, and get flushed out through your urine really, really effectively. That's Clean Slate. The second part, especially when we look at neurological function and stress, is everybody today wants to feel good, right? We want to be happy. We want to be stressed less. And we want amazing cognitive function and focus. And we want to enjoy the things that, we want to do. And we want to be able to get through some of the things that maybe we don't want to do, right? So when we talk about work, if you want amazing function, the ability to just process information really quickly, get tasks done and go. Or if you're doing sports and you want to have the best workouts of your life, you want your sports performance to go through the roof, that's a good trade. If you want to just feel good hanging out with friends, or if you're ladies and you want to make sure that you can get in the mood, that's what Zero In does, is it provides the natural components formulated properly, combined expertly, that allow your gut to produce dopamine and serotonin naturally to send those neurotransmitters to your brain. So you feel amazing. You've got amazing cognitive function. And then the fun gets to begin.
I just have to kind of chuckle to myself because on my Strava, Kurt and I've been riding our bikes, and we got on the road, and I hate riding on the road, but I had taken a Zero In before I went on this ride. And I actually thought, I'm just going to pedal as hard and as fast as I can. And I actually got on my Strava Queen of the Mountain. And it's like a award. I have a little crown. And so I saw Kurt in my rearview mirror, and he was like really struggling. And I'm thinking, geez, he usually takes off way ahead of me, and now I am so far ahead of him. I thought I better wait, So So then he finally figured out that it was really good if he gets up really close, when he's riding, and he can be in my stream, right? He doesn't have to pedal so hard. So it's pretty funny.
Cam's got the question about menopause, endocrine function, fibroids, endo. And well, if we look at menopause, endocrine function, mercury toxicity and other metals are directly correlated to disruptions in endocrine function and early menopause, as well as the aging process and gray hair. And it's, as you can see with my crazy hair, there's no gray. And I would really put that, my mom's completely gray now. My dad is completely gray. They're a little bit older than I am. Who knew? But the only place that I have some gray hairs from stress are on my chin. But here, and I really equate that to, working to clean stuff up over, consistently over the last 16 years. And that, I work to, and not to say that I don't put stress on my body, because I don't eat well all the time. And I'm really open about that. All of these people is like, you got to eat well every day. I'm not that dude. I won't tell anybody to follow a strict diet, because this just in, I don't. But when you look at the process, it doesn't matter if it's aging, Alzheimer's, autism, Parkinson's, ALS, fibro, chronic fatigue, rheumatoid arthritis, you go down the list. All of the science shows that environmental toxins are the cause of all of it, right? Because if we talk about inflammation and oxidative stress, right, then those two things are directly correlated to environmental toxins. And if we talk telomeres and telomere length, which science has proven over the last 10 years or so, that these little telomeres are the protective caps at the end of your DNA, and the shorter they get, that's the process that they go for degradation. And there's been a lot of research done to try to lengthen those little protective caps, but there's not been a lot of work done to try to remove what causes the primary degradation of those protective caps over time, and that's a toxic environment. So if you want to talk anti-aging, if in every aspect, you want to talk improving organ function, you want to talk about protecting the body, it's really important to clean up your system, because if you can remove the cause, and it may not be a direct cause. If we look at endometriosis and fibroids, I actually have a new associate, a new community member that we sent some product to yesterday. She's a couple hours away from me, and she has really, really bad endometriosis and fibroids. And I don't think that there's a direct ability to address them, but by cleaning up the environment, you are probably going to find, great benefit in why they're being created and how the body can address them. So that's really what's crucial, is to understand that in every aspect of life that we live in, that we don't have to treat anything, right? There over the last, we'll say since 1980, so the last 40 years, companies, whether it's drug companies or nutritional supplement companies, have made so much money talking about treating symptoms and treating diseases. And some people are going to look at this and go, well, you can't say the nutritional supplement industry does that. And personally, in my opinion, a lot of the nutritional supplements in the industry, not in every channel, they're no different than pharma, honestly, because all they're doing is try to treat symptoms. They're not addressing the cause, because we haven't put a focus on really addressing the cause until the last 10 years. And if we know what the cause is, and Dori's done such a phenomenal job, and we do this weekly to go over now, what some of these individual, components are doing to the body, but they're not separated in our system. This is something that we're exposed to every day of our lives consistently, and it builds up in us. And this is what's causing our problems. Your diagnosis, your issues, your symptoms really has nothing to do with you. we are a beautiful cesspool, every one of us. And because we're a cesspool, all of that pollution that's in us, that creates who we are. And if you can remove it and you clean it out, then we get to be amazing, because that's what we're made to be. But we got to clean stuff out first.
There's a lot of information. You can Google it. I'm just looking at a study now, the association between heavy metals, endometriosis, uterine myomas, and among premenopausal women. I mean, and there's many studies that you can find that show a direct correlation between a combination of heavy metals, for example, lead, cadmium, and mercury. I'll just send you this one now. You can take a look at it. But there's so much information out there, so many studies that you can look at. Let me see.
In the legal system, we talk about prima facie evidence, right? Evidence that is incontrovertible. And the fact that we are completely polluted, we're toxic, and those toxins are the causes of our problems is incontrovertible. You cannot argue the point. If you do, you're just being ignorant. And you're probably trying to spin a message to, sell something else, or make an argument that honestly isn't valid when you look at the science. And that's why for Root, the educational aspect is so important, because we want to educate our community members to understand that what you've been taught for so long and what you've heard is honestly not the way it is. It's not the way it has to be. Because if we just do a really good job of cleaning up ourselves first. If you have kids, right? What's the first thing you tell your kids to do when you come home, typically, if you've been gone for a little bit?
Wash your hands.
Clean up the house.
Oh, tell them to wash their hands.
Clean your room, right? Because it's filthy. Our bodies are the same way. The first thing you need to do is clean yourself up, but it's often the last thing people think about, because they're like, well, I heard that if I take this supplement, it can help inflammation. Maybe for a little bit, maybe it can mask it, but as soon as something changes, you have things come out again. And we don't want to mask issues. We want to remove what causes them, because then you can move on and you can have more fun in life and you can do amazing things, right? Because what does that say? It says cure the cause. That's our mantra. That's our purpose. That's our mission, right? That's why they're both behind me. We got the Root logo and we got the pegacorn in Cure the Cause, because we have amazing dynamic women that we get to work with, like Dori, like Christina, like many others. If you watched my Facebook video the other day of introducing some of the amazing people we have in the office with us. But change, right? Everyone says that we're coming into a new normal, which is not true. But it's a matter of understanding change. And now is a great time, because many people's weaknesses are being exposed, because people are becoming aware that maybe their immune system isn't as good as they want it to be, right? And they're afraid of what they're being told could be in the environment. But if you take care of yourself, and if your body's clean and it works properly, if you're exposed to stuff, and this just in, you're exposed to stuff every day of your life, and your body just takes care of it.
Well, and also too, everything you eat, and if you guys like to eat tuna, and get it in an aluminum can, get it in a can, you're full of mercury. I mean, there you got two right there. So, but the other thing too, Clayton, maybe we should touch on that when they're taking the product, they need to be drinking the water to help flush things out. Drink lots of water.
You have to hydrate. It is so important that you hydrate. And there was a rumor going around that we're 70% water. I think that rumor could be true. But if we're made of water, right, and we need water, and to flush stuff out, we need more water. But the reason hydrating is so important with Clean Slate is actually not due to the flushing of toxins through your kidneys and through your urine. That's secondary. The most important reason for you to hydrate is due to an increase in intracellular water. So your cells, as they start to begin to be detoxified, will start to plump up, right? And you can see this, some of the dark field microscopy images that you can see in the Root Your Life group that, you know, show a before and after from one of my friends who is a 38-year-old smoker. And in 10 minutes, we took her from really coined red blood cells to vibrant, amazing looking red blood cells. What happens is your red blood cells will start taking in more water. And intracellular water has actually been shown to be one of the keys to cellular vitality, right? If you want longevity, you have to be well hydrated. Because I'll give you an example. If you've ever seen a grape, grapes look amazing, right? They're really cool. They taste really good. Do you know what happens when you take the water out of a grape?
Get a raisin.
Get raisins. Guess what our geriatric population looks like? Freaking raisins. They don't look healthy, right? You don't have to look that way. You don't have to look like a raisin if you take care of yourself. Think about that. So you have to hydrate for two reasons. One, you want your cells to work really, really well. And two, you need to flush out stuff. Those are the two reasons. And that's why you also want to take some trace minerals. So Himalayan sea salt is one I highly recommend. If you want to go spend money on other trace minerals, you know, humic acids, fulvic acids, other trace mineral supplements are great. I'm one that prefers to source stuff as natural as possible. And part of being in a community and having an education and being educated is knowing where you can save money and where it might be good to spend money. And for trace minerals, me personally, I prefer to get them as naturally sourced as possible. So Himalayan sea salt's great. And you can eat as much of it as you like, because this just in, sea salt is good for you. Iodized salt, not so good, because it's just sodium. But if you've ever cut yourself and you've tasted your blood, the fact that it tastes like salt water could lead you to believe that it might be good to have lots of salt and sea salt.